All right, here we are, part 2, the last of the semester. So this is part 2 of white-collar crime and organized crime. So we're going to get right into it, and we're going to start with corporate crime. Corporate crime, it includes the illegal restraint of trade and price fixing. Now we'll come back to all of this. Deceptive pricing, false claims, and advertising, as well as green crimes. Now these crimes are considered to be socially injurious as they can affect the public, the environment, or the company's workers. These crimes can and do cause a great deal of damage. Now let's look at these corporate crimes and why they may be prone to great effect or damage. Now, I mentioned illegal restraint of trade and price fixing. Now, that's a mouthful of words. Here a contract or conspiracy is created to stifle the completion and creating a monopoly. That way, artificially maintaining prices or interfering with any competition. Price fixing is an example of restraint of trade as the product price is kept below the market value prices. By doing this, it affects the smaller companies from being able to compete. Perhaps they will need to close down, affecting their company, the owners of that company, and their employees. Deceptive pricing, well, this example is subtle and may not immediately affect the public. Here a company is deceiving other corporations or the government by agreeing to terms, then taking advantage of loopholes where the additional funds can be gained from the other business or the government, as there may be mechanisms in the agreement for these legitimate overages. However, the overage charges are not legitimate. That is to say, a company may take advantage of an agreement they made with the government to complete a task, a job on a certain time frame in a certain way, but there may be protections that if there are some delays due to supply chain or things like this, you don't get penalized. So they may create false supply chain issues in order to make additional money without having to pay the penalties. We can move into false claim and advertising, and this is one we will probably be more familiar with because we've probably had questions about some of these false claims and advertisings we've seen by companies. This involves the misleading or outright incorrect statements made about products and what we should expect about them. Companies need to be truthful about what they claim about their products. And we can find lots of examples where maybe it doesn't appear that way at all. As I mentioned, there are green crimes. Green crimes, this is clearly a troubling one as the environment is the victim of corporations. However, we humans, and for that matter, mammals and plants, are also the victims. The costs can be extreme. These crimes include deforestation, illegal logging, violations of worker safety standards, factors contributing to climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, government and political impact. There is not currently a way to bring government to justice for green crimes. As for the theories of white corporate crime and high-tech crime, many causes for white-collar crime have been proposed, but there may likely be as many explanations for this category of crime as there are white-collar crimes. As we have mentioned previously, some offenders are all in, and they have rationalized that what they do doesn't hurt anybody and are not at all like street crimes. Other white-collar crime offenders think that what they do in their business or business enterprise is too complex and therefore not understood by government regulations. Therefore, they feel justified. Still others, they may believe that everyone does it. They violate business laws. All the other companies do it. Therefore, it can't be bad for them to do it too. However, in addition to the above causes, factors such as greed, need, and the ability to rationalize behaviors based on this perceived prevalence in the business world. Rationalizations are what offenders use to get their financial goals met without compromising their values. There are two formal theories that have developed to explain the cause of white-collar crime. The corporate college view is one, and the self-control view is the second. The corporate culture view, now here the business may promote white-collar crime by just really stressing the importance of profit over fair play. In a way, they support a training of white-collar crime. Like street crime, where training starts with being a novice and going to journeyman and then to professional. The second, being the self-control view, this view contends that white-collar crime is really like all other crime, and it's a product of low self-esteem. Controlling white-collar crime is more difficult. The public perceives white-collar crime to be rarely prosecuted and recipients of very lenient sentences if convicted. However, the criminal justice system has developed two categories of strategies to bring white-collar criminals to justice: compliance strategies, and secondly, deterrent strategies. Compliance strategies are the goal. The goal here is to have law conformity and to avoid having to detect fraudulent behavior or bribery without having to detect, process, or sanction the violators. Now, this can include financial incentives to companies for obeying the law. I would like to be paid for abiding by the law like I do. These can be effective. These can affect fines, as these can be in effect as fines. Fines can hit at companies' bottom line. So if the sanctions are too stiff to deter, whereas deterrent strategies, unlike compliance strategies, deterrent strategies do not rely on do in fact rely on detecting the crime, determining responsibility, and sanctioning the violations. Now, this can be effective. However, it too is based on what is detected. Like unreported crime affecting statistics and our understandings, undetected white crime means no sanctions or identified need for correction. There is a constant review and revision to criminal code and other legislation to keep pace with new and innovative strategies to circumvent the law. Now, lastly, we're going to touch on organized crime. And by definition, organized crime is an ongoing criminal enterprise. Remember, that's the illegal element, where personal gain through illegitimate means. This includes prostitution, pornography, gambling, drugs. Because of its secrecy, power, and tremendous wealth, a mystique has grown around organized crime. The scope of organized crime in Canada can range from street gangs to more sophisticated national and international crime operations. The Criminal Code defines organized crime as groups with 3 or more people in or out of Canada, and has as its main purpose the commission of serious offenses to which they intend to receive material or financial benefit to the group or individuals of the group. Now, it's been difficult to track the numbers regarding organized crimes. However, agencies like the Criminal Intelligence Service Canada, or CICS, and Stats Canada with their UCR2 are creating amendments and are aiming to shine a light to provide more data on this area. Now, it's been difficult for criminologists to formulate a precise description of organized crime characteristics, but some general traits have been evident. It is a conspiratorial activity, and it's usually structured along hierarchical lines. That is, there's a structure of bosses at top with few and many minions down below. Hierarchical lines. Its primary goal is economic gain. Its criminal activities extend beyond the provision of these illicit services. It uses predatory tactics to accomplish its objectives. Its conspiratorial groups are usually quick and effective at controlling and disciplining members, associates, and victims, and it is not synonymous with the mafia. In 2000, the United Nations attempted to create a universal definition for organized crime in an effort to collect better data and in an effort to reduce organized crime. The UN's definition was thought to be a little too vague by the European Commission, Europol, and the Council, which you can see beside me here, developed an 11-point criteria, 4 of which must be present. 7 are optional, and it's estimated that there are in approximately 1,850 organized crime groups currently operating just in Canada. The most influential are the 3 main Italian-based criminal organizations, Sicilian Mafia, the 'Ndrangheta, and the La Cosa Nostra. And as well, we can look at outlaw motorcycle gangs of particular note in Canada, Hells Angels, and the Banditos. In Canada, organized crime is focusing on money laundering, smuggling, trafficking in tobacco, drugs, and alcohol, gambling, the sex trade, and conspiracy to commit murder, with the crime of human trafficking growing exponentially. You can see on page 290 to 292 some of the examples related to that. Lastly, we're going to consider the concept of organized crime. The concept of there is a theory not accepted by all criminologists, and the theory is known as alien conspiracy theory. And it's basically suggesting that organized crime in North America is controlled by the mafia. It is centrally coordinated, a national committee that settles disputes, dictates policies, and assigns territory. You'll see them in your textbook, the depiction of that in figure 12.3 on page 293, and it depicts the organizational structure of the mafia in how it manages their businesses in the US and Canada. Now, most criminologists don't see the organized crime to be so narrow, one central arm managing many all across North America. Instead, more contemporary organized crime groups are loose confederations of ethnic and regional crime groups. They are bound together by a common economic arm, is how most think. This has been a quick overview on this last section, but it's been divided into 2 parts, and this completes our last chapter on white-collar crime and organized crime. I hope you have gained some helpful and meaningful learning to help you in your future. Target harden your homes. Bye and good luck in your future. Take care.